Let me ask you something. How many times in your life have you wanted something so badly? Success, freedom, love, financial certainty, but deep down a voice told you it was out of reach. You see other people living the life you dream of. A part of you whispers, maybe it's not for me. Maybe I'm not ready. Maybe I'll never have it. That voice is the greatest thief of your destiny. If I told you that the only thing standing between you and everything you've ever wanted is not talent, not luck, not your background, but the way you choose to show up every single day. Because here's the truth, doesn't give you what you wish for. It responds to the energy you project, the certainty you radiate, and the actions you take if what you want is already yours. Think about it. The people you admire, the ones who seem unstoppable, they weren't handed certainty. They created it. They didn't wait for the evidence before believing. They believed first. They acted first. And that belief turned into results. And that's what I'm going to show you today. If you stay with me, you're going to discover how to step into a state of absolute certainty, how to rewire your identity, how to live in alignment with your vision so powerfully that the life you dream about doesn't just become possible, it becomes inevitable. Most people believe that to change their life, they need a brand new strategy. They think if they just learn the right steps, the right formula, the right secret, everything will suddenly shift. But let me tell you something, strategy without the right state is worthless. You can have the best plan in the world. If you show up in doubt, fear, hesitation, and insecurity, that plan will collapse. Why? Because your state is the foundation for everything. We don't manifest from strategy alone. We manifest from the emotional vibration we live in. Every day you wake up, you're either conditioning your nervous system to radiate certainty, confidence, passion, or you're letting yourself fall into a state of scarcity, worry, and waiting. And here's the truth of the universe, life, people, opportunities, they don't respond to what you say you want. They respond to the state you embody. Think about it for a moment. Have you ever met someone who walks into a room and before they even say a word, you can feel their energy? They radiate confidence, certainty, and strength. People are drawn to them. Doors open for them. Not because they have a magic formula, but because of the state they're in. On the other hand, you've also met people who walk into a room. You instantly feel their insecurity, their hesitation, their doubt. They repel opportunities without even realizing it. That's the power of state. Now, here's where acting as if it's already yours becomes so powerful. You step into a state where you already feel the result. When you breathe it, when you embody it, you stop begging for it and start living as though it's inevitable. And when you do that, your physiology changes, your mind shifts, energy transforms, and everything around you starts to reorganize in your favor. You don't wait for proof to feel confident. You decide to feel confident now. You don't wait for the relationship to show up to feel loved. You radiate love now. You don't wait until you're financially free to feel abundant. You carry yourself as if you already are. Because when you live in that state, your decisions and actions naturally align with the result you're manifesting. Let me give you an example. Imagine two people both chasing the same dream, say building a business. One wakes up every day stressed, worried if it's going to work, constantly checking if there's proof, doubting if they have what it takes. They take action, but it's hesitant, hearted, filled with uncertainty. The other wakes up and chooses to live in the state of the person who already made it. They walk differently, they talk differently, they take bold actions because in their mind, success isn't a maybe, it's a done deal. Now tell me, which one do you think life will respond to faster? This isn't about pretending. It's not about faking confidence or lying to yourself. It's about stepping into the most resourceful state possible before you do anything, because your state is the gateway to your power. If you want to create wealth, feel wealthy in your body first. If you want love, radiate love first. If you want success, embody success now. And I know some of you might be thinking, but how do I do that when my reality doesn't match what I want yet? That's the key. That's the very heart of this. You don't wait for reality to change first. You change your state first. Because when you shift your state, reality has no choice but to catch up. Have you ever noticed how when you're in a lousy mood, everything seems to go wrong? Traffic gets worse. People irritate you. Even small challenges feel overwhelming. But when you're in a powerful state, when you're on fire, full of energy, those same challenges barely register. You brush them off. You move through them. You find solutions effortlessly. The situation is the same, but your state determines how you experience it and how you influence it. That's why the power of state comes before strategy. Let me push you here. Because some of you are still living in the habit of waiting for the outside world to give you permission to feel powerful. You think, when I get the job, then I'll feel successful. When I get the money, then I'll feel abundant. I meet the right person, then I'll feel loved. That mindset keeps you trapped because you're putting your state in the hands of things you can't control. But when you decide to act as if it's already yours, you take the power back. You say, I'm not waiting for the world to tell me who I am. I decide who I am right now. And the moment you shift that, you begin to influence everything around you differently. People treat you differently. Opportunities come to you that were invisible before because your state changes your perception. When you're in a powerful state, you see possibilities where others see dead ends. You see openings where others see walls. You hear opportunities in conversations that other people completely miss. This is why you can't afford to live in a state of doubt, fear, or hesitation. because in those states, you will filter the world through limitation. When you choose to step into the state of certainty of power of abundance, the entire world looks different and it responds differently too. So how do you do this consistently? You condition it. Just like you train your body, you train your state. You don't wait for it to happen. You generate it. You use your body, your breath, your focus. Stand the way you would if it were already yours. Speak with the tone you would if you already knew it was done. Breathe like the person who has it now, because physiology drives psychology. When your body steps into certainty, your mind follows. If you make this your habit, if you stop letting circumstances dictate your state and instead choose the state you need before you take action, you'll stop chasing results and start attracting them. You'll move from hoping to knowing, waiting to living. That's why the power of state is the foundation of manifestation. It's not about wishing. It's about stepping into the energy of already having it and letting that energy pull the future into your present. So if you want to master manifestation, stop asking, what's the perfect strategy? And start asking, what state do I need to be in right now? Because once you master that, strategy flows effortlessly, opportunities multiply, life begins to bend in your direction. And that's the moment you stop chasing and start creating. You don't get in life what you want. You get who you are. That's not just a nice phrase. It's the ultimate truth about manifestation and achievement, because your identity, the story you tell yourself about who you are, shapes every decision, every behavior, every action you take. And those actions, repeated over time, create the results you see in your life. Most people walk around trying to change their circumstances without ever changing their identity. They say, I want to be wealthy, but deep down, they still carry the identity of someone who struggles, someone who lives paycheck to paycheck, someone who never has enough. They say, I want to be healthy, but they still identify as someone who hates exercise, someone who loves junk food, someone who can never stick with a routine. They say, I want to find love, but inside they still identify as someone unworthy, someone who always gets abandoned, someone who isn't enough. And as long as you cling to that old identity, no matter how badly you want something, your subconscious will sabotage you, because you cannot consistently act in a way that's out of alignment with who you believe you are. That's why when we talk about acting as if it's already yours, really talking about shifting identity, it's not just about changing your actions, it's about changing the person behind those actions. When you claim a new identity, your actions flow naturally from it. If you see yourself as a leader, you don't have to force yourself to lead, you just do. If you see yourself as disciplined, you don't have to fight every morning to get out of bed, you just get up because that's who you are. If you see yourself as abundant, you don't cling to money with fear. You circulate it, you invest it, you attract it because it feels natural. Think about it this way. A smoker who's trying to quit and says, I'm trying to stop smoking is still identifying as a smoker. That's why it feels like a battle every single day. But the person who says, I don't smoke has shifted identity. They're no longer fighting themselves because the action now matches the story. That's the difference between willpower and identity. Willpower runs out, but identity pulls you forward effortlessly. When you want to manifest something new, the first question you have to ask yourself isn't, what do I need to do? It's, do I need to become? Because the doing flows from the being. If you want to create financial abundance, you can't keep living with the identity of someone who's always broke. You've got to step into the identity of someone who already lives in abundance. That doesn't mean pretending you have millions in the bank when you don't. It means carrying yourself with the confidence, the discipline, the creativity, the responsibility of the person who does. If you want to attract love, you can't keep walking around as the person who feels unworthy. You must step into the identity of someone who is already lovable, already valuable, already enough. This is where so many people get stuck. They think, I'll feel successful once I achieve success. I'll feel loved once I find love. I'll feel abundant once I make money. But the formula is backwards. You don't wait for the result to change your identity. You change your identity, and that creates the result. You've done this before in your life without even realizing it. Think back to when you accomplished something big, maybe finishing school, maybe building a career, maybe overcoming a tough challenge. At some point before you had the result, you had to change your identity. You had to stop seeing yourself as someone who couldn't and start seeing yourself as someone who could. You had to stop telling yourself the old story and begin writing a new one. That shift created the momentum, and the momentum created the outcome. So if you want to act as if it's already yours, start with this question: what identity would the person who already has this live from? Not just what they do, but who they are. How do they think? How do they carry themselves? How do they talk to themselves when no one else is listening? Standards do they demand from life? Because if you're living with the old identity, you'll always fall back into the old patterns. But when you step into a new identity, your patterns change automatically. Now, I can hear some of you saying, what if I don't believe it yet? That's where faith and conditioning come in. You don't need to believe it fully on day one. You just need to start stepping into it daily, consistently, until it feels real. At first, it feels like a stretch. At first, your mind fights back with all the old stories. But if you stay with it, if you keep declaring that new identity, keep acting from it, keep conditioning it, something incredible happens. One day, It stops feeling like a stretch and starts feeling like the truth. And once it becomes your truth, your reality has no choice but to align with it. Let's be real. You're always living from an identity anyway. The only question is it the one that serves your future or the one that chains you to your past? Too many people are loyal to their limitations. They're more committed to defending the story of why they can't than creating the story of how they can. They wear their struggles like a badge of honor, not realizing that every time they reinforce that old story, they're programming themselves to repeat it. But the moment you decide, this is who I am now, everything changes. This is who I want to be, but this is who I am. That's the power of identity. That's the essence of acting as if. When you live as though it's already yours, you're not faking it. You're aligning your identity with your destiny. The real work of manifestation isn't about waiting, wishing, or hoping, and it's about stepping into a new identity and refusing to go back. Because once you claim it, your subconscious will begin scanning for evidence to support it. Your actions will line up with it. Your results will follow it. That's why if you want a new reality, you must first create a new identity. Your subconscious mind is the most powerful force shaping your life. Here's the thing. It doesn't know the difference between what's real and what's vividly imagined. It only knows what you repeatedly tell it, what you repeatedly feel, and what you repeatedly experience in your nervous system. That's why acting as if is not some gimmick or silly trick. It's a way of programming your subconscious to align with the future you want until your entire system believes it's already true. Think about this. When you watch a movie, you know it's not real. You know the people on the screen are actors, the explosions are special effects, the love story is scripted. But have you ever cried during a movie? Have you ever felt fear or your heart race during an intense scene? Your body reacts as if it's happening to you. That's your subconscious at work. It doesn't filter out what's real from what's imagined. It simply responds to the emotions and the imagery you give it. This is why elite athletes rehearse in their minds before they step onto the field. They don't just practice physically, they visualize the win. They see themselves performing flawlessly. They imagine the crowd, the victory, the feeling of triumph. Their bodies respond to that imagery. Their subconscious begins to wire itself for success before they ever step into the arena. When the moment comes, it doesn't feel foreign. It feels familiar because their nervous system has already lived it. The same is true for you. If you want to manifest something, you can't just hope it will happen one day. You've got to give your subconscious a blueprint so clear, so real that it begins to accept it as your reality. The more vivid the picture, powerful the feeling, the more your subconscious will believe it's already true. And once it believes, it starts pulling your thoughts, your behaviors, and even your perception of opportunities into alignment with that reality. Let me give you an example. Imagine someone who wants to double their income. If they spend their days worrying, thinking about how hard it is, replaying all the times they failed, subconscious keeps reinforcing the identity of someone who struggles financially. But if that same person spends time each day vividly imagining themselves already living in abundance, seeing their bank account grow, feeling the freedom, the gratitude, the certainty of financial security, the subconscious starts to adapt. The nervous system begins to normalize abundance. Suddenly, when opportunities show up, they don't miss them. They notice them. They act boldly on them. They don't sabotage themselves because deep down, they already believe it's theirs. And that's the key. Your subconscious doesn't need evidence. It just needs repetition and emotion. The problem is, most people rehearse the wrong future every single day. They wake up and replay their fears. They rehearse conversations where things go wrong. They imagine outcomes where they fail, where they're rejected, where they don't measure up. And guess what? Their subconscious accepts that too. It wires their nervous system for failure before they even begin. You've got to break that pattern. You've got to stop feeding your subconscious a diet of fear and doubt. Instead, give it the language of your vision. This is why affirmations only work when you don't just say the words, but when you feel them in your body. It's not about chanting empty phrases. It's about speaking from the state of the person who already has it. It's about flooding your nervous system with the certainty of that reality until your subconscious can't tell the difference. Here's the beauty of it. Once your subconscious accepts something as true, it will fight to keep it consistent. This is called cognitive dissonance. When your subconscious believes you're abundant and your external reality doesn't yet match, you will be compelled to act in ways that close that gap. You'll make different choices. You'll show up differently. You'll move toward the vision until reality catches up with belief. Have you ever had the experience of buying a new car? Suddenly you start seeing that same car everywhere on the road. It's not that the cars suddenly appeared. It's that your subconscious filtered your perception differently. Before, it wasn't important, so your mind ignored it. Now that you own that car, your subconscious sees it everywhere. That's exactly how manifestation works. When you feed your subconscious the belief that it's already yours, it starts filtering the world for evidence to match that belief. You see opportunities you would have missed. You connect with people you might have overlooked. You hear ideas that suddenly stand out because they align with your vision. That's why you can't underestimate the power of your imagination. Most people use imagination against themselves. They imagine the worst case scenario. They imagine rejection. They imagine struggle. But when you harness imagination intentionally, You live in the state of already. You're not just daydreaming, you're rewiring your subconscious to create that future. So how do you make this real in your life? You don't just think it once. You practice it daily. You carve out time to step into that future in your mind and in your body. You don't just see the picture, you feel the emotions. You feel the gratitude, the relief, the joy, the certainty of already having it, because your subconscious responds most powerfully to emotion. The stronger the emotion, the faster the conditioning. At first, your mind will resist. It will say, this isn't real, stop pretending. That's normal. But if you stay consistent, if you keep feeding the subconscious the same vision with enough intensity, the line between imagination and reality blurs. And when that happens, your subconscious begins to work for you, not against you. Here's the truth. Subconscious has been shaping your life all along. Every belief you hold, every story you repeat, every pattern you live, it all comes from what your subconscious has accepted as true. If you want to create a different future, you must give it a different truth to believe. Acting as if is the bridge. It's how you step into the emotions, the behaviors, and the identity of your future self right now and let your subconscious lock onto it as reality. When that happens, you stop chasing and start attracting. You stop trying to convince yourself and start living in certainty. And when your subconscious finally accepts that it's already yours, everything you do moves in that direction until your reality reflects it back to you. That's when manifestation stops being something you hope for and becomes something you live. There's a common misconception when people hear the phrase, act as if. They think it means pretending, faking, putting on some kind of show until life finally catches up. But that's not what it's about at all. Acting as if isn't about putting on a mask. It's about aligning your daily actions, your small decisions, your habits with the identity of the person who already has what you want. Because in the end, it's not the grand declarations that transform your life. It's the micro actions you take consistently that shape your reality. People say they want change. They often imagine one giant leap, one big breakthrough moment where everything shifts. And yes, those moments can happen. But more often, it's the accumulation of small, consistent choices that build momentum. It's the little things you do each day that either reinforce the old version of you or condition the new version of you. And here's the truth. Every single action you take is a vote for the person you're becoming. Think about that. Every time you hit snooze, instead of getting up, you cast a vote for the identity of someone who avoids discipline. Every time you choose to get up and move, even when you don't feel like it, you cast a vote for the identity of someone who is disciplined, someone who is strong. Every time you spend money impulsively, you cast a vote for the identity of someone who can't manage wealth. Every time you pause, make a conscious choice, and invest wisely, you cast a vote for the identity of someone who is abundant and in control. It's not about being perfect. No one wins every single vote. But the direction of your life is shaped by the majority of the votes you cast through your habits. When you start acting as if it's already yours, what you're really doing is aligning your small daily actions with that future identity until the gap between who you are now and who you're becoming disappears. Let me give you an example. Imagine someone who wants to write a book. In their vision, they're already an author. They see themselves signing copies, inspiring people, changing lives. But right now, they don't have a single page written. Acting as if doesn't mean walking around telling people they're an author without ever writing. It means sitting down every day, even if it's just for 20 minutes, and putting words on the page. That daily act reinforces the identity. It's not glamorous, it's not dramatic, but it's powerful because each day they're casting votes for the reality they're creating. Or take someone who wants to get in the best shape of their life. Acting as if doesn't mean pretending they already have the body they want. It means showing up in the gym consistently, eating in alignment with that goal, making choices that reflect the future version of themselves. Even if the results aren't immediate, the identity is being reinforced every single day, and eventually the results catch up. The problem is most people get trapped in the waiting game. They say, once I have the results, then I'll act like the person who deserves them. But that's not how it works. You've got to reverse it. You've got to say, I'll act like the person who already has it now. The results will come as a natural byproduct of my consistent actions. That's the essence of acting as if. It's not about pretending, it's about practicing. This is why discipline is so critical in manifestation. Because your habits are the evidence you give your subconscious. When your actions are congruent with your vision, your subconscious begins to believe it more deeply. If you keep telling yourself you're wealthy, but your actions scream scarcity, subconscious will never buy it. If you keep telling yourself you're healthy, but you live in contradiction to that, your subconscious will reject it. But when your small daily actions match the story, the subconscious aligns. And once that happens, it's only a matter of time before reality reflects it. Now, here's where people often sabotage themselves. They take one or two small actions. They don't see immediate results. And they say, it's not working. They give up because the external evidence isn't there yet. But manifestation doesn't happen on your timeline. Those small actions are seeds, and seeds don't sprout overnight. You don't plant a tree and dig it up the next morning asking why it hasn't grown. You keep watering it, you keep nurturing it, and in time, the growth becomes visible. The daily actions are the watering. They may not show you immediate results, They're creating invisible roots, foundations that will eventually break through into visible reality. Every successful person you admire got there, not by a single grand act, but by thousands of small, consistent actions that compounded over time. They acted as if long before anyone else saw the evidence. They lived in alignment with their vision before the world caught up. And that's what you must do. You have to be willing to take the small steps when no one is watching, when no one is clapping. Nothing on the outside has changed yet, because those are the moments that prove to yourself who you are becoming. And here's something powerful. You don't need massive willpower to do this. You just need to link your small actions to your bigger vision. If you see each action as a meaningless chore, you'll quit. But if you see each action as a vote for the future you're creating, you'll feel the momentum. Every choice becomes significant. Every action becomes a declaration. This is who I am. This is where I'm going. This is what I stand for. It's not about acting in ways that are grand and impressive. It's about being congruent in the micro, actions that no one else sees. Because who you are in private shapes who you become in public. Who you are in your small choices creates the foundation for your big breakthroughs. So I want you to ask yourself, if the future you that already has everything you desire was watching you today, would they recognize themselves in your actions? Would they say, yes, that's me? Or would they say, no, that's not the person I became? Because if you want to bridge the gap between where you are and where you want to be, the bridge is built with the small, consistent choices you make daily. And when you start casting the majority of your votes for the person you're becoming, something amazing happens. Your subconscious begins to shift. Your confidence grows. You stop questioning if it's possible and start feeling it's inevitable. The future self and the present self merge, and at that point, it's only a matter of time before the world mirrors back what you've already become internally. That's the power of small actions reinforcing the future self. One of the biggest traps people fall into when they try to manifest their vision is becoming obsessed with the timeline. They think it has to happen this year. It has to happen by next month. If it doesn't happen soon, maybe it was never meant for me. That attachment to when it's going to happen creates resistance. And resistance is the very thing that pushes what you want further away from you. Acting as if it's already yours means stepping into the vision so fully, so deeply that you stop chasing the timeline. You trust the process and you allow the unfolding. Here's what most people don't realize when you're desperate for a result. You radiate scarcity. You project neediness. You tell the world, I don't have it yet. I'm not complete yet. I need this to feel whole. And the world mirrors that energy back to you. When you detach from the timeline and anchor yourself in the vision, you move into certainty. You say with your energy, this is already mine. Whether it shows up tomorrow, next week, next year, doesn't matter. I already own it in my being. That energy is magnetic. That energy attracts. Think about relationships. Have you ever noticed that when someone is desperate for love, when they cling, when they chess, they radiate that energy of need, people pull away. But when someone is confident, grounded, and certain in themselves, they become incredibly attractive. They don't need to beg for attention. They draw it naturally. That's the difference between attachment to a timeline and attachment to the vision. One repels, the other attracts, and this is where faith comes in. Faith isn't believing only when things go your way. Faith is holding the vision even when the evidence hasn't shown up yet. Faith is staying anchored when nothing outside of you gives you reason to believe. That's the test most people fail. They start with excitement. They act as if for a while. When the results don't come in the time frame they expected, they quit. They say, this doesn't work. Maybe it's not meant for me. What they don't realize is that the vision was already on its way. They disconnected from it because their patience ran out. Look back in your own life. Think of a time when something you really wanted showed up later than you thought it would. But when it did, it was perfect timing. Maybe it was a relationship that appeared just when you were finally ready for it. Maybe it was an opportunity that came after you'd built the skills to handle it. Maybe it was money that came in when you needed it most, not when you first wanted it. That's how life works. The timing is often different from what we demand, but it's always aligned with what we can handle, what we're prepared for, and what will serve us best. So when you act as if it's already yours, you must also let go of the desperation for it to happen right now. You live in the vision so powerfully that you feel it every day, but you trust that the timeline is not your job. Your job is the vision, the state, the alignment. Life takes care of the timing. Now, I'm not saying you sit back and do nothing. I'm not saying you wait passively for it to fall into your lap. You still take action. You still move. You still align yourself with the vision through habits and choices. You do it from a place of certainty, not from a place of panic. You do it with the energy of someone who already knows it's done, not someone trying desperately to make it happen before the clock runs out. This is why people who succeed often seem so calm in the pursuit of their goals. It's not because they don't care. It's because they've detached from the timeline. They don't need proof right now to keep going. They've committed to the vision so deeply that time is irrelevant. Whether it takes 6 months or 6 years, they know it's theirs. And because of that certainty, they move differently. They make bolder decisions. They radiate patience and confidence. The world responds to that. On the flip side, when you're obsessed with when you live in constant pressure, you wake up asking, why hasn't it happened yet? You check the scoreboard every day. You compare yourself to everyone else's timeline. All of that energy communicates lack. You're telling your subconscious, it's not here. It's not working. I don't have it. And if you repeat that long enough, your subconscious will accept it as truth and your actions will reflect it. That's why detachment is not just a nice idea, it's essential. It protects your state. It keeps your subconscious aligned with the vision, and it keeps you magnetic instead of repellent. So how do you practice detachment while staying committed to the vision? The key is to anchor yourself emotionally in the feeling of already having it, not in the clock. Every time impatience creeps in, you return to the vision. You close your eyes and live in that future. You feel the gratitude, the joy, the relief at already being done. And you remind yourself, my job is not to control, when my job is to embody now. When you do that, life begins to surprise you. Opportunities that seemed random show up at just the right moment. People you never expected to meet cross your path. Resources flow in ways you couldn't have planned. And it's not luck, it's alignment. It's the natural result of you staying committed to the vision while letting go of the desperation for timing. And here's the paradox. You'll often find that the moment you let go of the timeline, things happen faster because you've removed the resistance. You've stopped pushing and pulling. You've stepped into flow. You've allowed life to deliver in its own way instead of strangling the process with your expectations. That's when manifestation feels effortless because you're no longer fighting the current, you're moving with it. This is why acting as if isn't just about embodying the result, it's about trusting the process. It's about living in such certainty that you don't care how long it takes because you already know it's done. When you reach that place, the waiting game disappears. There's no waiting. There's only living in alignment with what's already yours. And when you detach from the timeline, but stay attached to the vision, you enter into one of the most powerful states you can live in certainty without desperation. That's when you stop chasing and start attracting. There is one more piece that ties all of this together. And it's something so simple, so overlooked, yet so powerful that it can shift your entire state instantly. Gratitude is the final seal on manifestation because it locks you into the emotional frequency of already having what you desire. You can't feel genuine gratitude for something and simultaneously believe you don't have it. The act of gratitude convinces your subconscious, your body, your nervous system that it's already yours. Think about the last time you felt overwhelming gratitude. Maybe it was for a person in your life, a moment of beauty, or something you once dreamed about that became real. Gratitude changes your physiology immediately. Your shoulders drop, your breathing deepens, your mind clears, and your heart opens. It's impossible to feel gratitude and lack at the same time. That's why gratitude is such a powerful force. It shifts you out of scarcity and into abundance in an instant. You practice gratitude for things you desire as though they're already here. You send a clear signal to your subconscious. This is my reality. And the subconscious, as we've already said, doesn't know the difference between imagination and reality. So when you wake up in the morning and give thanks for the opportunities that are already flowing, for the financial abundance that is already present, the love that surrounds you, even if it hasn't physically shown up yet, you are programming your nervous system to accept it as truth. And once it accepts it, your behaviors and perceptions will shift to align with it. Gratitude is also the antidote to impatience. When you're caught up in, why hasn't it happened yet? You're focusing on lack. But when you shift to, thank you that it's already unfolding, your energy changes. You move from waiting to receiving. You stop broadcasting desperation and start radiating certainty. Gratitude tells life, I trust you. I know it's already mine. Thank you for delivering it in the perfect way and at the perfect time. That kind of energy accelerates manifestation because it removes resistance and puts you in alignment with flow. Now, some people hear this and think it sounds silly to be grateful for things that aren't here yet. But remember, every single thing that exists in your life right now was once only in your imagination. There was a time when your job, your home, your relationships, even the technology you use every day were nothing but ideas. Someone believed in them, someone gave thanks for them before they appeared, and through that belief, they became real. Gratitude is not pretending. It's participating in the creative process of life. Let's take it deeper. When you live in gratitude, you don't just shift your energy, you change your perception of everything around you. Instead of seeing what's missing, you start seeing what's present. Instead of focusing on obstacles, you see opportunities. Instead of noticing problems, you notice blessings. And here's the paradox: the more grateful you are for what you have, you attract reasons to be grateful. Gratitude multiplies. It's like telling life, I appreciate this, and life responds by giving you more. Without gratitude, even if you achieve your vision, you'll still feel empty. You'll get the money, the success, the relationship, but you'll quickly adapt and start chasing the next thing. Gratitude is what allows you to feel rich before the money comes, loved before the partner arrives, successful before the trophy is in your hands. That feeling is not only the magnet for manifestation, it's the fulfillment itself. Gratitude allows you to win twice, once internally, and again when the external reality catches up. So how do you make this real? You make gratitude a practice, not just an occasional thought. When you wake up in the morning, don't start by thinking about what's missing or what you have to fix. Start by giving thanks. Not just for what you see, but for what you know is already unfolding. Thank the future as if it's already done. Thank the opportunities that are on their way. Thank the health, the love, the abundance, the breakthroughs. Say it out loud. Feel it in your body. Let it be real. And don't just do it once. Carry it throughout your day. When fear creeps in, return to gratitude. When doubt whispers, silence it with gratitude. When impatience rises, anchor yourself with gratitude. Gratitude is your reset button. It's how you shift from scarcity to abundance, fear to faith, from doubt to certainty. If you've ever been around someone who lives in gratitude, you know how magnetic they are. They glow, they're alive, they radiate abundance. And people are drawn to that energy because it feels expansive. It feels uplifting. That's what happens when you live in gratitude. You become a magnet, not just for opportunities, but for people, for relationships, for experiences that match that energy. This is why gratitude is not just the finishing touch on manifestation. It's the glue that holds it all together. Acting as if puts you in the state. Identity locks in the new reality. The subconscious rewires. Your small actions reinforce the vision. Detachment keeps you aligned, but gratitude seals it. Gratitude is what tells your mind and body it's done. I already have it. Thank you. And the more you live in that state of thankfulness, the less you chase. You don't need to prove anything. You don't need to force anything. You simply align, and what you desire flows to you with ease, because life doesn't resist a grateful heart. It rewards it. So if you want to take everything we've talked about and make it real, make gratitude your daily ritual. Use it to condition your nervous system. Use it to remind yourself of the truth. Use it to step into the feeling of already having it, because when you do, your future is no longer something you're hoping for, it's something you're already living. And when gratitude becomes your foundation, manifestation is no longer a question of if. It's only a question of how soon.